Connecting to cloud server. Okay, good. I remembered for once. All right, I'm going to share a screen with you. And this screen, share. I'm correct. You should see a map of Nepal. Yeah. Can I have some feedback?
Yeah.
Nodding of
All
the
good.
heads. Okay, good. What I
Yep,
wanted to just
yep.
do first of all is go through a little bit about Nepal because there are two sections of Nepal. There is the Annapurna side and the Everest side. So if you can see my mouse, I'm sure, can you see a mouse move on the screen?
Yep.
I'll need
Yeah.
that during the process. Right. So you can cut this picture in half and you'll see on this side where the red word of Pokhara is the Annapurna side, and on the side is Gokyo Ri, and that's where the Annapurna people sat last year. They basically hovered in that little blue circle here on the left-hand side, and then you'll see Kathmandu, and further right of the Kathmandu is Mount Everest, and so that is the Everest side. So we talk about the two sides across the Himalayas. When we talk about, I'll just go through that. Um, have a look here. So the guys who went to the Annapurna trek, they flew into Pokhara. We drove to Dampus, and then we basically will see words look familiar like Gandrak, and then they've gone up here, basically up. You won't. It's sort of around this Annapurna Dashkin area. So we hiked all the way in through there and got a party, and then came back down again. This time, however, we're starting in Kathmandu and we're going across to this little star, which is called Lukla. Carry on with that. So, as I mentioned, there are two sides. So when we hike the Annapurna, this is my personal belief, most of the time you're hiking at an average of about 4,500 meters. So you can go to 5.5, you can do all that, but most of the time you're hiking below what I call the major altitude issues. So you're in around the 4,000 meter mark. And when you go to the Everest, most of the time you're hiking around the 5,500 meter mark. So the two sides, even though they're the Himalayan ranges and they've got the 8,000 meter mountains, we often find that with our trekking, the trekking on the Annapurna is a little lower than the trekking on the Everest side. And so this makes the Everest side a lot more challenging than the Annapurna side. It also means, and Roz asked this one, it means the time we take to trek is different. So when we're only trekking to 4,000 meters, 4,200, you're not really dealing with a lot of altitude issues. So you can, your treks might go a little quicker. Once you start hitting above 4,000 meters, you're basically going at a snail's pace. You climb and go small distances. Now, in our trek, we've got some big passes to do, but in between the passes are real rest days or casual days. So, so we'll find that as we go up in higher altitude, our days still are long, but if you like, our distances are never that long. Basically, our trip. Now, I'll go through our trip shortly by looking at the PDF, and hopefully you can have a copy of your own PDF. You might have it somewhere on your system. But we're doing a little love heart. We're going from Lukla up this red, through the valley, up this red area into Namche, and then we're going to do this lovely circle around the Himalayas itself. And so we're right up in the mountains, right underneath Mount Everest. So Mount Amadablam, Lhotse, Nutputsi, ChoLa, the whole lot. So this is the exciting bit. We're inside that beautiful Everest mountain range for, I don't know, a serious amount of days. Because Lukla to Namche is 2 days. Namche to Kathmandu is 30 minutes. And the rest of the time that we're on is in there. So that's what makes this trip super exciting. Let's have a look at it. I'm going to send you these files as well as a Google Drive, a Google Earth map, if you would like to go through and fly through the ranges. It's such an exciting thing to do. So we start here at Lukla, which is just below Gat, and then we're going to walk through this area here. And you can see here that we're not walking very high. We're just through the valley, and this is a way to acclimatize. So in essence, we start at Lukla, which is 2,800 meters. We go down into Gut, which is down 300 meters, and we're going to sleep. And then we slowly go up. So we're going to go to Manjo, and then we're going to go to Namche. And I'll go and do a little picture of that in just a second. And I'll go through the altitudes as we go through it on the other maps. We go to Namche, and then there is a steep climb up there, and then we're going to go probably down into the into Evan Hillary's place where he set up a school, a little village, which takes us down. before we go up a little bit to sleep at the next spot in Kumjang. Then we're going up, even though I always remember we go down, but in fact, it's just the fact that the Himalayas never has anything flat. So be prepared. You'll never see flat for the next 16 days. So we'll go, I call it down.
You go to Himalayan flat, Nepali flat.
Nepali flat. That's all we'll have. So we then go to about 3,500 meters, as I said, at Kangchang, and then we're heading over here to Pangboche at 43, Dingboche at 48. So we're not going high in these elevations, but that's enough altitude at that point in time. We then we have a little sleep over here, and then we head over this thing called the Kongma La Pass, which is a 5,500 meter pass. It's our first pass. It's about 10 days into the trek, and we go over the mountain and come back down again. And when we go there and you have a look at that, it's right in the middle of sitting at the best part of the views of Amadablam and the other mountains.
Sonia, when do we leave on that first bit? When do we leave the mob that are going to base camp?
Yeah, look, the mob that go to base camp basically look, the biggest mob goes to Namche. All right. So Namche, the path to Namche is the busy path, which is this first 4 days here, or 2 days, sorry.
Yeah.
Then everybody goes a different way after that. They either don't go or they do go after that. So there are quick paths up to Everest Base Camp. A lot of people do this bit that we're doing, but they won't go over this mountain. But that is not a busy trail, so you really don't see other people along that trail because everyone's going at different paces. But as you go to Namche, it's not just tourists, it's all the Nepalese and all the builders and all the people that are going in. So Namche is a massive village like Pokhara, and that's where they all got everything happens in Namche. And then after that, it all starts to disappear.
Okay.
I can't guarantee no one walking over to Dingboche, but it's less busy because once you're in Namche, there are tentacles everywhere. I'll go through this, but you're following these yellow dots around. So we're following the yellow dots to Lobuche, up to Kala Pattar, over to ChoLa Pass, over to Gokyo Ri, RenjoLa Pass, down to Lungdun, and then we have a nice little trip back to the Everest View Hotel and fly out. So we're spending all of that time in those mountains. You can see here, just again, this little first one, Lukla flat, Gap flat, Manjo a little bit higher. And then can you see this here? It doesn't look very steep, but that walk from Manjo to Namche is the one that's going to kill you because that's your first introduction to a hill in Nepal. And the first hill in Nepal goes from where is it's only like 700 meters up, but it is just up and you're starting to get altitude. So of course you're starting at the height of what's our mountain called? Kosciuszko, and you're going up to 3,500 meters.
Is it the steps at that point?
No.
Or have we got on the track? It's tracks at that point.
There aren't many steps on this trek. Most of it's trail.
Okay.
Okay. Whereas we had those big monster steps in
the lower levels of Annapurna that were quite easy to get up.
Yeah, but this one's not. This is just a switchback. A lot of switchbacks throughout this trail. All right, so then we go to Namche, and here's another view. When we're at Namche, we're going to go around here where it says viewpoint. We're going to go down into that village in there, around the back, and then all the way. Tangboche is a monastery. We go and visit the Tangboche monastery, over to Pangboche and Dingboche. Gets quite busy to the Tangboche monastery because that is very easy for people to do because that's only 4,500 meters, and so that's really easy for people to do. Once we start heading past Tangboche, now we're in the mountains, and when we're in the mountains, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So because it gets altitude and everyone panics by this stage. We've walked, go back. We've walked over to Dingboche through this lovely valley. We go up and down. It always looks like I'm going down, but somehow I'm getting higher and higher and higher as I go up here to Dingboche. I've just turned the map around, so a 360-degree look from another angle. What I wanted to show was we go from Dingboche. When I went to Everest Base Camp. We go Dingboche around, where's my mouse? Around the river. See this little glacier river here? Around the river over here to Lobuche. But what we're going to do is go around this side. If you can see this mouse, and you're going to go up through this little valley, over this Kongma La Pass, and back down on the other side to Lobuche. Right next to that is the Populated Peak. So that is your first monster day.
Is that a
About
glacier where your
1,000-meter
mouth
climb.
is?
Hey?
Is that a glacier before Lobuche?
Yeah, they'll be all glaciers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where we will probably, when we're in Nepal, I'll get everyone to buy spikes, little tiny ice spikes. They'll be useful to go over all of these passes. This is not mountaineering. There's no need for crampons, but it just feels more comfortable, and Dave will explain that. If you're on ice and you have spikes, he didn't have them, and he was a bit like all of the guys on Annapurna. They probably wish they had spikes. What I want to show you here on the next map is Dingboche's down here. So a lovely little acclimatization hike that we do often after Dingboche, because we have a rest day there, is we go up this little hill climb here. And that's just a nice little, get you up to 5,000 meters, get a little test of how you're feeling about that, and then you come back down and sleep here. So as always, what we try to do in Nepal is go high and sleep, walk and then get high and then come back down and sleep. And when you look at the itinerary, every day we cross a pass and we come back down and sleep. So we go over the Kongma La Pass, so we get up to 5,500 meters, and then we're going to come back down and we're going to sleep at 5,000 meters. So, every day to help with altitude issues, we go up, we come back down. Once we are at Dingboche, we are basically then spending the next, I don't know the days, the next 6 or 7 days at 5,000 meters. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nearly 11 days at 5,000 meters. So you're going to go up and down between 4,000 or 4,800 and 5,500 meters, spending time in that area. So you won't, once you've got through the acclimatization of altitude, you shouldn't get it once you're in there. But if you do, don't panic. We have remedies. We'll make sure everyone goes on Diamox. You'll ask me altitude issues later. And if there's a real problem, you get out, right? So there's no issue in terms of managing that. But you can sort of see the terrain. When you look at Google Maps, it allows you to look at the terrain and you'll start to see some big mountains that you're going to be crossing. So we've gone down the Kongma La Pass. Here we are crossing a glacier, not a big one. It's more of a, I haven't seen where the crossing is here. We might go around this flat bit here. I'm not sure of the exact path they will take, but more than likely looks like they'll probably come down through this valley here, cross over by the Everest Memorial, and then go up to Lobuche. Now, Lobuche gives you an opportunity to have another sleep if you want instead of hiking, because the next day we're just going to Gokyo Ri, Kala Pattar, and coming back to Lobuche. So if the altitude's getting to you, you want to have a rest, your legs are tired, you've just done a big 5,500 meter climb, and you're going, oh my God, this is much harder than I ever thought it was, you get a rest day. If you found it just like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done, you keep hiking. So we go to Lobuche, we go into Kala Pattar. Kala Pattar is, you can probably see next to Kala Pattar, Everest Base Camp. So we don't divert off. We go up to Kala Pattar, take a little picture there, and come back down again. Again, Kala Pattar is optional. You might just go to Gokyo Ri and have a cup of tea. Get there, stay for lunch, and don't go and do the second half. The walk through to Gokyo Ri is lovely. You get to go through the Everest Memorial. There it is, the Everest Memorial here. We get to go through that. And that's where there's a lot of memorials to a lot of the people that have passed away on Everest, on Mount Everest. And so you may even see names that you've heard of, and representation. So it's quite a holy place in terms of reflecting on people who haven't made it. I suspect it's a lot busier now than a busier memorial than it ever was, because of the thousands of people that go to Everest who probably shouldn't go to Everest. Kala Pattar, come back to Lobuche. And then I believe we'd be going around the valley. We don't go over the high pass here. We'll go back around the valley by Kamjung over to this I can't say, Zongola, something like that. So down here, this yellow dot down the bottom.
Jongla.
Thank you, Yongla. So we're down in here. We're up to high. So we've done High Pass 1 and Kala Pattar, which is not a high pass, but it's high pass. It's 5,500 meters. We then go up over the ChoLa Pass. ChoLa Pass is one of our other high passes. And then we're going to come back down and go to this guest house. Well, it's not guest house, but that area, Tanang. Then we're going to go across to Gokyo. We're going to stay at Gokyo. And then we've got another high. We're going to do another high peak of Gokyo Ri and come back down and sleep at Gokyo. If you don't want to, there's a little lake. You just enjoy going around that lake. Everything about that, and I'll get Patrick to have a little chat in a minute. Everything about Gokyo and ChoLa Pass are just to die for. And then we go around Gokyo and go over the RenjoLa Pass. And then we will, I'm jumping all over the place. Here she is, RenjoLa up here. Go down through the valley to Lungdun. And when we're at Lungdun, we're about 4,000 meters. And then we just walk through the valley, down, by the way, even though it looks up, down through the valley to the Everest View Hotel, which is about 3,900. So we're going from about 4,300 to 4,000. And then we get a Everest View Hotel. You say goodbye to the beautiful mountains around you. You hop on that helipad and head back to Kathmandu. So that is our terrain. I'll pause and let you throw in some questions before I talk about some of the accommodation. There's only one difference of accommodation that the guys at Annapurna didn't see, but I'll cover the accommodation off as well. So that trek, has that still got you with me, or has anyone left? What part of hard have you not picked up yet? All right. This is why we train from the beginning of March. If you like, train now. And this is why hills are your only friend between now and October. No flat walking is actually permitted between now and October. So every time Kerry does a hike in Balmoral, she adds 3 more laps of the Waba Hill on just to entertain herself at the end of the day, right? Roz, you know, you guys have all got to think about, where are there hills around me? How can I add hill hiking in, right? So we will add it into our hiking program. But if you're not at my hiking program, where can I go to add a hill? And that's what's going to be really key to train for this. And hills more than steps, as Dave said. What about the steps on? This is more hills. So the part I personally haven't done that Patrick has is the Gokyo Ri part. And I'm just going to pause. And Patrick, just give us a little chat about Gokyo.
The best part is Gokyo by far. And if you get to Gokyo, you have to go up Gokyo Ri, because the views are astounding. I think there's something like 8 of the top 15 highest mountains in the world you can see from the top of Gokyo Ri. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend doing that. That's my favorite part of Nepal was Gokyo, because of the lakes and the views from the top and everything. It was fantastic.
Hey, Patrick,
yeah, and it is. When you look at the pictures, we've got a few pictures on the website. That is why you go. You go for that view.
Hey, Patrick, quick question. The pace that you talk about when you're higher up at the 5,000 meter plus, of course, we did our own Nepali pace when we were going up Annapurna, right? So it's, I mean, that was, compared to walking in Sydney, bloody slow. But it's fine, because you still get worn out.
During the day,
same pace, is it similar pace, or even slower than that, really?
Oh, no, it's way slower than that. Yeah, look, it's way slower. It depends on what you're doing. Like during the day, I from my memory, you're only walking 10 or 12 Ks in a day, but it takes you from 6:30 in the morning till sort of 3 in the afternoon to do that, with stops and lunch and everything as well. But as you get higher up, it just becomes more difficult to walk quickly.
So we did about 10 Ks a day on average in Annapurna, but so it's going to be similar, but more breaks maybe.
Dave, I've got enough pace. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I just send that back to Jack. Look, once you get above 4,000, you are literally walking like a snail, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's the way you get up a hill. So, that's fine. Often I'll say to people, 10 steps, 10 breaths. 10 steps, 10 breaths. So when I did my Dingboche little acclimatization hike, 4,500 or 4,800 meters to 5,000. It was 10 steps, 10 breaths. So that's okay. That's what we do. We go slow. Once you've got over your first high pass, you'll be actually more acclimatized at altitude. You won't ever go fast, but you'll be more acclimatized, just as we did at the Annapurna. Once we were getting up to the 3,800 meters, you actually weren't walking slow. But by the way, our 3,800 meter high camp is Namche. Okay, so when in the Annapurna, when we got to our highest point on Annapurna, that is Namche, that is day 2. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It's just steep and you prepare for it.
Yeah. Sonia mentioned before that Namche was a really tough day. It is really tough day. But what it actually does, you'll think, oh, I'm never going to make this after you do the day at Namche, but you have a rest day and then do another acclimatization hike. But that actually sets you up to go above 4,000 meters. Once you've actually got past that, you actually start to feel better and fitter. And even though it's still hard, it becomes more doable. And that Namche day sets you up for it.
So Patrick, just one more thing. You trained beforehand, okay? So how did you find that? So I set you up with a training program, but that, before you went, you came from a zero training background. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I had been doing some training, but I wasn't sure. A lot of it wasn't as focused as what you put together. So that was kind of the difference between, just walking up hills, which is essentially all I was doing, and actually being prepared for, the rigors of hiking, in the Himalaya and the different rocks and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that was the difference, basically.
So fitness-wise, let's just have a 30-second talk about that, seeing as we've just covered that off. From fitness, you will get a training program from me. Now, it doesn't go through specifically do squats and lunges. However, it says, and then there's a second half of it. It says, Monday you will do a fitness workout. Tuesday you will go hiking. Wednesday you'll do a hill climb. Thursday you do 1,000 steps. Friday you do a fitness workout. Saturday you do a yoga workout. Is that me? Is that me from somewhere? Might be. No, it's okay. So I might just. Oh, she's gone on mute. So you have a stream to say do these things. By the time we get to Everest, part of your program may say run 5Ks. Now you may not be able to run 5Ks, but you might have a rower or a bike. So you'll be doing some cardio to get your cardiovascular system working. All right. So the idea is that by the time we start in March, by the time we're ready to go in October, you would have had a 7-month program that starts really easy and mild and then builds up that you are working out every day of the week, maybe a rest day, but 6 days out of 7 ready for this. Now, on my YouTube channel, there are a range of videos, and Kathy did just my videos for her training to go to the Annapurna, and she just flew up Annapurna without anything. So, I have a range of videos that will lead you through, plus I'll make more as we go through this to say, these are the squats, these are the lunges, these are the box steps you need to do. This is what you need to work on. So you spend a lot of time on your legs, some time on your shoulders because of the backpack, and a lot of time also on your core. That sounds a whole body workout. It is, because you need the whole body workout to get you ready. So we want really powerful legs, and you don't get powerful legs from hiking. You get powerful legs from squats and lunges with weight. So it's not just doing squats and lunges. You need to get weight. So if you have a home gym, find yourself some hand weights, right? Go and buy them from the local. I always find them on Marketplace. Grab some weights. 10 kilos might be enough, but you grab something like that. I'll run that through with everybody, privately. Deadlifts, squats, lunges, calf raises, they're all good things that build muscle in the leg, and you need the muscle to get you up the hill. So the hill training gets you in ready, but it's the muscular training that allows your legs to cope when everything else is falling apart. And the cardiovascular system, so we want to be as fit as we can so that when it is struggling, you actually still can breathe, right? So it's all combined, whether it's cardio, muscle strength. And the reason we work on our back and our shoulders is you're carrying a tiny little backpack, usually about 5 or 6 kilos. At 5,000 meters, it'll feel like 15. So We want to be ready for that because the higher we go in altitude, everything feels a little harder. So let's make it a little easier. So I'm going to pause at that point. Questions from the floor. Kathy's probably just got home, dialing in from home, coming back online. So I'll just pause. Questions from the floor first of all, and then I'll go through other things. Nothing.
Sonia, you mentioned we've got to cross a glacier. You know how you see them of the Khumbu Glacier, they walk across the ladders. We don't do any of that.
No. That's it. This is not mountaineering.
Thank God.
This is not mountaineering. This is not scary. Right?
Yeah, cool.
There we go. It is okay. It is the glacier. I don't think we'll be crossing a glacier. I think we'll go around the base of it, right? Because there's no major concerns. But as I say, just so you feel more comfortable, we'll all pick up some little spikes when we're in Namche. Next question. Okay. Let's just talk about the accommodation quickly. One of the things that the Annapurna people know this, but we're adding something new on this one. When we go with World Expeditions, they have these beautiful stand-up tents. So most of the trek is in a World Expedition campsite. So they have stand-up tents with 2 beds off the floor, camp stretchers. You can stand up in them, unless you're tall like Dave and Patrick, but if you're like us, you can stand up in them and whichever. Normally, you will set up to share, but sometimes there's no one else in a World Expeditions camp, and we have a tent to ourselves. So we tried last year very carefully with the married couples to get the smelly socks in so the wives would leave the husbands, but it never worked. So you could have a room each. But if you're going in and you've got your bestie like Kay and Kerry, if there's no one else there, you more than likely will get a room each. So I wouldn't buy single supplement. I don't think it's worth it. But because generally on the camp, there's enough rooms that you should be okay. But if you're absolutely anal and you need it, then you will need to go down that path. But I think, Jack, we all got basically most of the time got private rooms last year, didn't we? There were four ladies, and I think we all got single rooms outside of the married couples. And of course, if it's just Patrick and 7 women, he won't be sharing with a woman. Okay, so if Dave comes and Dave is married to Kathy, so if they come, they've got a room. But if this Dave and this Patrick come, they may share, they may not. But if one of them comes, you won't get one of the blokes sharing with you. Okay, they don't do that sort of thing in World X. Secondly, sometimes we play at tea lodges, in tea houses. So in much more remote areas like Lobuche and Gorikshep areas, we will stay in a tea house. A tea house is just an old shed with rooms in it. It's nothing fancy, right? Sometimes they're nice, but in this area they're not. Unless they've got nice places, they're just big old village community halls with little tiny rooms, share bathrooms, really no privacy between the walls, and you just get used to hearing every noise under the sun. Earplugs, eye masks are mandatory. The third thing, this particular trek offers a wilderness camp, which I'm excited about, but you guys might not be. So a wilderness camp is a little tent, where they carry the tents to the campsite, they build the tent for you, and you will sleep in the tent on the floor off the mattress about this thick. We have only one night of those, and that's at the before going over the Kongma La Pass. Okay, so we're in a very remote area, and it is there's usually probably one shed there that they feed us in, but then you go out to your tent. So there is one night. You can take an extra sleeping mattress, so they will put a mattress in. Like Dave might take 2 mattresses, so his hips are okay. So he might be a bit elevated off the ground. So you might find that you've got a Cedar Summit blow-up mattress. You might take that in your bag just for that one night. The rest of the night, you will have beautiful mattresses and beautiful huts. They will supply you a mattress, but if you're not happy and you're anxious about being on the ground, that is a wilderness campsite, and that's what that means. They supply you a sleeping bag, and their sleeping bags are probably better than anything you're going to have unless you've got a mountaineering sleeping bag. Okay. So their sleeping bags, and I'll just check with Dave, they're pretty cozy, weren't they?
They're lovely.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. So I wouldn't be worrying about owning a sleeping bag, bringing your own sleeping bag. World Expeditions supply you one. And when we're in this high altitude stuff, you want theirs, right? Because you want the warmest, toastiest thing you can get. They also supply you a big puffy jacket. So you will have your own puffy jacket that's cute and cozy and gorgeous. But when you're getting at this altitude, you may want to have theirs and put that on top of yours. So they give you that to take with you. It's big and it's bulky and it's huge, but it's warm. And again, boys, did we use yours? Did either of you use them in
I use them
Annapurna?
in camps for a few days. Yeah, it's very, very warm.
Well, I didn't in Annapurna, but I did the last time I was there.
Yeah. Okay. And they give us a trek bag. So everything has to go in a duffel when you're there, and they will supply that to us when we're in Kathmandu. And you get 20 kilos to put in there because we're going to high altitude. We take a lot more stuff than if we were going over to the Annapurna side. So,
So
we discussed
we
that
get more than
later.
Annapurna, do we? We get
Yeah.
more than Annapurna weight. Oh, okay, good.
You get 20 kilos this time. So stuff it in.
Fluffy PJs.
Extra mattresses. So the accommodation is mostly their huts, occasionally about 3 or 4 tea huts, and then the wilderness huts. I much prefer the tenting, but the tea huts are lovely as well. You will washing. Let's talk about that for those who've not been here before. You really don't wash for the next 16, 17 days except with a bucket of water. So you learn as a avid Everest or an avid Nepal person, trekker, that you learn that washy in a bowl of water, you can do a full body wash from toe to top in your tent with a wet one, and it's a beautiful thing. So the tea huts will have showers. You can go and buy a shower for $2, but I wouldn't be relying on any hot water up in that area. So, the hot water comes from a beautiful kettle. Those boys make, if there's 10 of us, those boys make 10 litres of water at hot and bring it into our tent for a beautiful washy. So you'll get that morning and night. So it's lovely. And they really encourage hygiene. So we encourage that, we clean all the time, hand sanitizers, wash your hands every day. You need to keep your hygiene up because we are in these remote areas. We are in an environment that your stomach is not used to. So gastro is normal. Now, I'm very proud to say that no one in Annapurna got sick once. That's the only trek I've ever been on where no one's got sick. Everyone always gets sick. So we prepare for that, and we just try to keep our hygiene as good as possible. Sickness is purely just gastro. It'll be gone within 24 hours. It's just nasty. So any questions on accommodation? I'll talk about food in just a second. Accommodation or logistics in that regard. Yes, Sarah.
You mentioned about washing, personal washing. What about, like your undies and socks and stuff like that? Or do you just take many pairs?
No, you don't. Well, you've got 20 kilos, so you could. No, I usually wash them in the washy water after I've done my body.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I know the guys in Annapurna, you should have seen the washing lines. Dave and Kaz had everything out. They did a lot of washing. Everyone they had much more washing than I did. So you just use the washy water you've got or ask the boys for some more. But we wash on the way. They're in the places that have got tea huts. You take all your clothes in and you put it next to the fire and it will dry within moments. But it generally dries overnight. In the big days where we might have a day off, you do a lot of washing. So Dingboche, we got a day off. You get your washing done ready for the next half of the trek.
Okay, perfect.
It'll take lots, but you got to watch what you take because it's just silly when you wash. Other questions on that component? So I'll just jump to food. We talked about hygiene, and again, I'll ask Dave because he loved this one. Food in Nepal is brilliant. Dave, you want to have a comment?
Are we getting the same chef?
We're working on it.
You promised me the same chef. He was outstanding.
I'm working on it.
He was outstanding. I had seconds, or most of the days I had bloody thirds of everything they cooked, and I still lost weight. But no, it's delicious food all the way through. Actually, amazing.
So when you're in a tea hut and you do traditional Nepal, they'll serve you up spaghetti bolognese or stuff like this. But when you get the World Expeditions, they have their chefs. Their chefs are trained. They are all trained in exactly the same way. So you will get your veggies, you'll get your carbs, you'll get your protein. So every lunch and every dinner, you've got a five things on your plate. There's some breads that they make. There's lots of veggies, and there's some sort of extra carbs, and then there's some sort of protein. If you're vegetarian, they'll give you an egg. You get tired of eggs, but they'll give you another egg. They cater for anything. If you're gluten free, they'll cater for it. If you're celiac, they'll cater for it. So you make sure on your World Expedition forms that you put in what you are allergic to or what you are concerned about. They're really good at you're gluten free. So Kathy was gluten free on our last trek. She got gluten free stuff, or it may have been one of the other girls. So they look after you, so they don't ever worry about your special needs. But food, they cook us pizza. I don't know how they do it, but they're in the middle of the country on a grass bed. They've done it to me twice now. You sit on this grass bed on a blanket, and out they bring pizza, and it tasted big. Even Patrick loved it. It was mushroom pizza, and he hates mushrooms.
Pizzas are to die for. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
On an open fire. Never an open fire. Amazing.
You'll get about 3 cakes while you're there, so be prepared for chocolate cakes. They love making a chocolate cake. Kerry, you'll be envious. So the food is good. You get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You get 3 courses. So there's always porridge. There's always hot breakfast. There's always breads. You get this lemon tea every time you get into camp to keep you warm. You'll get biscuits as soon as you sit down with your lemon tea. And so you wouldn't believe how much you eat. And what did you say, Dave? How much weight you lose.
Yeah. And you get cordial, warm cordial.
Cordial, that's what lemon juice, cordial. Lots of cordial. So it's all traditional. It's always the same. I've done 5 of these things. They're pretty much identical. And it's always good. And if there's a problem, they'll listen to you and they'll go, oh, you want more spice, you want less spice. So food. Any questions about the food or again these logistics, Sarah?
Yeah, along those lines. What about water and drinking water and carrying water, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So they are. So one of the things is so we get our own chefs. So there's usually 1 chef, an assistant chef, and 3 helpers. So there's 5 people in the kitchen. They go everywhere with us. We stay at a tea house. They cook. We don't have anything cooked by anyone else. That keeps our hygiene correct. They boil water. You never get a water that's not boiled. So you don't need to take treatment tablets. They will boil the water. And so at night, they give you you take your Nalgene bottle, you fill it up with hot water. It becomes your water blanket, your hot water bottle in bed. The next morning, you pour it in your bladder. It becomes your drinking bottle. So you always get boiled water at breakfast. You'll get it at lunch. You'll get it at dinner. So wherever we are, they will boil water for us to enjoy. And you generally will top up with water all the way through the day. So at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you'll top up your bladder. And they're very anal about drinking a serious amount of water.
Mm.
So on the altitude, I'll come to altitude in a minute. On the altitude, the only way, there's several ways to avoid altitude sickness. The most important way to avoid altitude sickness is drink and eat. Walk slow. So drink, eat, walk slow are the 3 most important. Sleep low, climb high, have a Diamox. There are about 5 or 6 things, but the most important will be drink, and eat everything that's in front of you. Don't be fussy. You're on mute, Kerry. You're on mute. Everyone come off mute. It's quite okay. You're still on mute. I'll go ask to unmute.
Oh, there.
No,
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
Okay. When do we start taking Diamox?
In Lukla.
Okay. So you'll just tell us, and do we need to get all that stuff, or you'll give us a list of what we need? Or?
Yeah. So medication. So generally, when you buy Diamox, given that you've all gone to a travel doctor at some point and they've given you permission to have drugs, one of us will more than likely buy some Diamox, and they're going to give us 100 tablets. You need about 10. So, once you've got permission to have some, and I'll get a box or something and I can distribute them out. But I don't do it unless I know that your doctor, in fact, maybe our doctor here can subscribe them to us, etc. So unless we can have, permission, because Diamox has sulfur in it, and if you're allergic to sulfur or you have other issues, you may have issues. So again, you must have a conversation with your doctor first. But Diamox is just a preventative drug. So the idea is that you take it when you're low, like at Lukla, and you'll take it all the way through to Everest View Camp. You take it half in the morning, half at night, depending on how you're feeling, maybe one when you're getting really high. And it's just going to just alleviate any of the pressures, etc., just keep you hydrated. It's just a diuretic. So basically it's going to be a way that is going to stop you from having some of the symptoms of altitude sickness.
Okay.
If you get serious altitude sickness, we'll get our doctor to chit chat later, serious altitude sickness, and you're really struggling, you've gone up over the high pass and you're absolutely struggling, we're going to get you down off the mountain, we're going to give you a Dexy and we're going to fly you out, right? So if you don't recover after coming off the high pass and you're really struggling, we'll more than likely give you a bigger drug, which is going to really help the brain, and then we're going to fly you out. But, you'll know that as you're getting to 4-8, how you're feeling, whether the headaches are kicking in and whether they're dissolving or not. Headaches will happen. That's just, what happens on the trip.
Okay. The other thing people say about altitude gyms.
No.
Good.
You can,
okay.
But no.
No, I don't
I've
want to
done
do any more.
7,000. I've climbed 7,000 meters without a gym.
No.
Well, my gym is like me working fucking hard.
Yeah.
Okay, was that you?
Yeah. When you were on about being flown out,
Yep.
you might have spoken about this in the beginning. Do we need separate travel insurance?
No, you're not going high enough. Make sure that your travel insurance covers you to 5,500 meters.
Well, that's
Most
separate. My travel insurance comes with my credit card, so I have to tell them.
You have
then.
to check
I might have to pay more.
PDS. No, I don't know. Check the PDS.
Yeah.
So every travel insurance covers you to a certain altitude. Then they have options that you can buy as an option add-on, skiing, water sports, not mountaineering, but climbing. But you'll know what yours say. So if it says 5,000 meters and you're going to 5.5, you better have a chat and say, well, I probably need 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them don't. You don't need it for Everest Base Camp, and that's what you're doing, right? Yeah, Patrick.
Okay, thanks.
You're a travel agent. What's your view on that? Anything about travel insurance?
No, yeah, definitely. A lot of them now are some are only going to sort of 4,000. So you must read that part of the policy document, especially if you're using credit card insurance, because a lot of them may not cover that sort of thing. So all of them will say stuff about mountaineering and fixed lines, which we don't need to worry about. It's just the altitude you need to check, and it'll tell you whether you can go to 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. So
just on our line here, our expert in food is Kerry. Our expert in travel is our travel agent, Patrick. All right, so just a couple more seconds on altitude. Altitude is really, really important, and as I say, I don't think anyone should worry about altitude unless you have had it. Unless you have had it before at about 3 or 4,000 meters. So if you've been to If you've been to Everest and or anywhere in Nepal, and you have had altitude, you may get it again, and that's really key. But I've spoken to everybody here. My understanding is no one's in that bracket.
I've not done altitude before.
I've
not done altitude before.
No, and you won't know. That's right. But some people have. Someone spoke to me. Jayla spoke to me yesterday, and she said, I had it when I went to Tibet. But when you go to Tibet base camp, you basically drive in. You don't walk in. So you drive into 5,500 meters. Well, you're going to get altitude sickness at 5,500 meters when you get out of a car. That's just what it is.
That's what happens.
But again, when you read through, and I wrote it down here, when you read through the altitude that we're doing, so have a look at your itinerary. 2,000, 2,500, 2,800, 3,400, 3,500, 3,900, 4,300, 4,800, 5,500, 4,900, 5,500, 4,900, 4,800, 5,400, 4,500, 5,500. You know what I mean? Up and down, which means we're trying to avoid altitude. So 3 things, as I said, pointed out. Drink everything. Electrolytes, and I give you all electrolytes, right? So as we go along this trek, I'll give you some electrolytes. If you have your own favorites, do so. Eat everything in front of you and more. So you've got to fuel your body. That's really key. Be as fit as you can before you arrive, so you're not having to worry about fitness as well as altitude, right? Let's try and divorce the two. If we're fit before we arrive, that's not going to be a problem. So we can just manage about how we breathe. Walk really, really slowly. Patrick mentioned that earlier. So when you're training, it's practicing the rest step. It's practicing walking really slowly. And this is part of the things that we teach you. So it's about going up hills really, really slowly, right? All of these things will help. We go high, we sleep low. That helps. And then I absolutely for the Everest side. I mean, I don't take Diamox for going to Everest Base Camp 5,500 meters. I don't generally take Diamox unless I'm going above 6. But I will not let you come on this trip unless you have seen your doctor and you get, if you can't get permission, you can't have it. But given that you get permission, I would highly say you must take Diamox. There's no point in risking the trip because you don't want to take a tablet. And by the way, I've met those people. They've got to about $4,500 at 4,500 meters, and they said, I can't breathe anymore. I can't go. I want to go home. And that was the man, and the wife goes, you fucking, pardon me for swearing, you get your act in order, you take some hydrolyte, and you take a Diamox, and we're going up that hill. So he did do what his wife said, and he did make it to 6,200 meters, thankfully. But, you know, he didn't take a Diamox before that, and he was suffering. So we don't want to suffer. We want to enjoy the trek. Mm-hmm. So altitude is real. We don't mess with it. We look after ourselves.
Right. Do we have to take any other medication?
You not medication.
We have to take pre-shots.
Yes, you will need to go to your travel doctor like you do with every trek everything you've gone overseas, and you'll need to get everything up to date. So there's nothing you don't need unless you're going up to the Chitwan National Park. You won't need malaria. But otherwise, you basically need all your shots up to date, whether it's Hep B, Hep C, typhoid, tetanus, all the things that you would have if you were going to any other third world country. But please see your travel doctor to discuss that. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, you should be seeing your travel doctor about now, because some of those shots are a 6-month. If you haven't had your Hep Bs or Cs or As or whichever one they are, sometimes they're a 3-shot thing, and you might need. It might be once every 3 months or something. So it doesn't hurt when you're going off to see your doctor to take, if you've still got your yellow book or something that talks about your immunizations, go and get them checked and make sure that you've had your last booster of COVID before you go. So I've covered off food, altitude sickness, accommodation, the terrain, and a bit of the and then the fitness. What else is on the list that you would like to just check? Don't worry about packing and all that gear. We've got 9 months to sort that out. We'll get the lists out, plenty of time. It's a trek. It's in Nepal. The answer is layers. Hiking boots, not hiking shoes. And definitely no trail runners unless you're in Kathmandu.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next question, last questions. Anything else you need with 10? We're all on a beautiful helicopter. So at the moment I'm walking, because the other 4 haven't signed up. And if I get more than 9, that's okay, because we either can take 3 helicopters or, someone might say, actually, I don't want to do the helicopter. It either scares me or it's, cost effective. I prefer to walk. And then we might give you that opportunity to walk with a Sherpa out rather than helicopter out. But at the moment, the helicopter is in the trip.
How long does it take to walk out? I'm not that keen on helicopter either, I must say.
I know, but we'll hold your hand for 30 minutes versus a full day downhill hike, which is like 2,000 meters downhill, and then sitting in Lukla for a night and then hoping to God you can get out on the plane. So 3 days versus 30 minutes.
You made that sound
helicopter is
so
better than flying out of Lukla.
Just closing out, last questions, last comments. You can always reach out and ask anything individually. But, key thing is making sure my 4 new people clearly know what's going on. My 2 regulars, I think they're pretty good with Nepal. They're just looking forward to those lovely mountains that Patrick has behind him. And I think the difference, Dave and Pat, or difference, Dave, is this time we walked under the mountains before, but this time you're absolutely immersed in them. And there was a lot of rainforests on the Annapurna side. This one is all mountains. We are just immersed in them, and so it's quite amazing. When you're sitting under Hammer de Blam, you just go into crazy, I don't know, spasms. There you go. Unless there's one more question, as I say, give me a call for anything else. So congratulations to my 5 signed up people. Look forward to seeing the boys online. And Cecile, we'd love to welcome you. And
thank you.
if not, another friend, girls and guys, just keep them knowing about the trek, because we're going to fill this up so that we've got our perfect people. But I know my boys will sign up. They've just got to take their time.
Perfect.